helping you to weather good and bad economies without putting retirement on hold. This is the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo. Ken and his son Nick know that creating a comprehensive financial plan can align your hard-earned life savings with your retirement goals. Consider them your retirement architects. Now, the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo.
All right, it is Super Bowl season. We just celebrated one of America's greatest unofficial holidays, Super Bowl Sunday. And of course, anybody that knows anything about the NFL knows that when it comes to the players of the game, each one of them dedicates their entire life, their entire career to getting to the Super Bowl, preferably walking away with a win at the Super Bowl. Hall of Famer Andre Reed is part of an elite group of Buffalo Bills who played in 4 straight Super Bowl games in the early 1990s. And we actually had the chance to meet and talk with Andre Reed a few years back. This is part of that conversation.
As a kid, I always dreamed about playing in the Super Bowl. I think if you talk to any Pop Warner kid, he dreams about playing in the Super Bowl one day. And the spectacle of it 25, 35 years ago, it just keeps growing. It's media driven. So I just remember what I felt like stepping on that field, and you knew that millions of people were watching you around the world. And, you know, that's where I wanted to be. It was a phenomenal feeling, yeah. Besides the winning, we didn't win, but, you know, that's part of losing too.
I was going to ask you, Nick, because you know more about football trivia than I do. Did Andre Reed ever win a Super Bowl ring?
I don't know if he did, but I know those 4 straight years, the Bills did not win.
Yeah, I did know that.
That's just brutal.
But I know, but I wonder, because Andre Reed's such a legend, you know, the name, everybody knows the name Andre Reed, so I wonder if he ever actually ended up winning. Despite losses, no matter what team you're looking at when it comes to the NFL, Super Bowl runs, they do not happen by accident. There is a plan in place. However, for folks that are getting ready to enter in their own, what we can call the financial Super Bowl of their lives, getting to retirement, they have finally reached this, you know, some people call it this retirement red zone, the last 5 to 10 years before you retire. And yet they go into it winging it. The plan is not there. How often do you see somebody winging it as they get closer to retirement, or maybe are already in retirement?
I actually see a good chunk of it. People will tell me like their plans in general. They'll say, oh yeah, I want to go on this many trips a year. I want to go to Italy, France, Greece. I want to purchase a house, a boat. I want to do all these things in retirement. And I'm like, okay, what's the plan of how you're thinking about it? And that's when they are like, I haven't really thought about it. What's the plan? I'm just going to, and that's where I see the winging it a little bit more.
Okay.
So give them that guidance, really gives them that sense of, okay, I can actually do these things and pull the trigger too. That's why you want that plan in place, because it gives you that sense of doing something. So like I have a few clients that moved to Florida the last couple of years, and some of them were nervous about pulling the trigger and building out the plan. And actually he retired early too, which was awesome too. My client, looking at the plan, building it out, he ended up deciding to retire at 62 because the plan worked.
Wow.
And he thought he was going to retire at 65. So everything ended up working out for him. He ended up buying a house in Florida. He did sell his house in Connecticut, so he does have one house. But the plan worked. His wife was retired. He wanted to enjoy with his wife, wanted to enjoy the warm weather and everything. And we're actually he wanted to accelerate payments on the house too. We also built out a plan for that so that his house is paid off by 2029. So yeah, by January of 2029, his house is going to be paid off. And when I looked at all these factors, I looked at the tax code, I looked at Medicare premiums because his wife is already 65. So I had to look at a few different factors when building out this plan, but it gave him that sense of pulling that trigger. We've been working together for a few years now. He pulled the trigger to retire because I worked with him before he retired. And then he pulled the trigger to buy that house in Florida. And we have a plan in place, and he's comfortable with what's going on. So having a plan in place I think it's very crucial to do these things, especially the bigger things, buying a house, a boat, maybe even those bigger trips. You want to take all your kids and grandkids to Disney. We know Disney's just ridiculously expensive nowadays.
I know.
You want to put that in a plan nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's why we do that complimentary for our qualified callers. Our Tumolo Retirement Checkup. Our phone number is 860-854-3434, or you go to our website at tfcheckup.com.
Yeah, and we talk about winging it. And I can't tell you how many times we run into it. It's partly, it's just partly how we're trained, unfortunately, meaning, we work all these years and we just keep throwing money in the 401k. And then you always hear people saying, you got to make as much money as you can on your account. If you're not making 10%, 12%, 14%, which, by the way, in retirement, you're not swinging for the fences like that. But the thing is in our minds, we start to think, oh, when we get into retirement, as long as we make X percent, meaning it's only about the investments, then we're going to be okay. Which we find when you start to think that way, and that's where I lean more towards winging it. There's a lot more pieces to it. And what I mean by a lot more pieces is there's Social Security timing, and Social Security is taxed different than other areas. So then we start to lean into the tax planning. And so, and we know our tax code is a mess. And then there's always the estate planning, move the money on efficiently to loved ones. So it's just not the investments. It's just not about earning as much as you can, which, by the way, sometimes if that's what you're doing going into retirement, and then we were to have a 2008 again, you might be in trouble. Basically, if we go back to 08, also in 01, basically investment accounts were halved, meaning if you had $1 million and you're super risky going into those two periods of time, you might only have $500,000. And that might wreck your retirement because your retirement might require $1 million to get through. So winging it isn't good. It's really taking everything into an account. So we have a client years back, they came in, they were actually radio listeners, and they came in, and they might hear this story. But husband and wife came in. His wife, I got to make up some names just to make this easy. We'll just call him Mr.
We'll call him Jane and Joe.
And Joe. and so Jane was the one that kind of got Joe to come in. Because he was like, I got this. I'm doing it myself. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to pay anyone for this stuff. And so they come in. And that's how really the conversation started. It was, he really didn't want to be in here. And but we gathered the information. And for the people that know us, we're really easygoing. It's not like you're going to walk through the door and we're going to try to sell you something, because it's really about the numbers. We got to see if we can help you. If we can't help you in multiple areas, then I mean, if it's just investing, then sometimes you're better off just investing yourself. It's really the whole picture. And so they come in, Nick and I build out our retirement checkup, and we have them come back. And so we're going through it, and keep in mind they had north of $1 million, but they were missing a bunch of things. Basically, if they did some Roth conversions, if they did some tax planning, timed the Social Security a certain way, they ended up with almost $300,000 more by the time they were 90. And it was just by some tweaks. And I'm not talking about changing investments at that point. It's about the planning. And so we go all the way back to then, and I start to show them that. And then he starts to kind of talk about the fee. And he's like, I don't want to pay any advisor to do this. I'm like, okay, well, then you could try to do these strategies yourself. And he was just that type of guy you had to push back and just say that to. I usually don't like to say things like that. But I'm like, yeah, you're just going to have to try to do it yourself. And, and then we basically finished up the appointment, and, they're heading home. About 25 minutes after, on the way home, they called us up, and they're like, you know what, Ken, we want to become clients. And I can tell you what happened. She told me anyways. They got in the car on the way home, and she basically put her foot down and said, we need to do this because I know you're not going to know what you're doing, and you're going to be crabby with me. And
right. And also, like, I don't feel like being married to you while you fight your way up this, financial hill our entire retirement. Like, that's not fun for her.
No, she wants to enjoy it. She wanted to go on vacations. Yeah. She didn't want them looking at a screen all the time. So a few years later, they're both happy. Things are going well. Fees are more than covered by some of the things that we've been doing with them. So it was a good case. And so we always talk about people coming in and working with us. A lot of times, there's a lot more strategies when someone comes in and they have $500,000 or more. Because the thing with it, a lot of times that money's sitting in a 401k, and there's strategies that we could put in place to help them. So we
when
offer,
you're over a certain age, right?
Yeah,
When you're
over a
59
certain
or
age,
over.
and usually you've got about $500,000 or more, and you start to do the math on it, and a lot of times there's strategies there. And the thing is, you want to put the strategies in place. You don't want to wait till you're 70, 80 years old, because those strategies aren't going to produce the same results. So we want to start early. We want to start in the early 60s, even mid 50s. We do a complimentary, that Tumolo Financial Retirement Checkup. That's where you want to start. You want to figure out whether or not you're missing something. Our number to call, 860-854-3434, or visit us online at tfcheckup.com.
Investment advice offered through Tumolo Wealth Management, a Connecticut-registered investment advisor. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here.